Welcome back for part 2 of Edits with Iain. Today we have an icy macro and what would probably be considered an environmental portrait. If you want to check out part 1, there's a link in the comments and in the description. And on the subject of comments, that feedback is always appreciated. Let's get on with finishing off the set of images then. A macro of some ice crystals. This is actually on the same bus stop I showed in my photography project video. And one day I was walking past with the dogs and I saw that it had a load of ice crystals formed onto it through it freezing quite rapidly, I think. So I came back out with my camera and put the macro lens on, and every time I'm blown away when you look at macro photos up close, like even out as you're taking them. But when you get home and put them on the screen and you just see how much detail, it's truly astounding almost every time. But here's the crystals up close up. The only problem here is that some of them are the actual layer in the background, just here that you can see, like this one. These are actually the other side of the perspex. And the only other problem I had was because the perspex was actually bowed, and so it means that it looks like it's flat, but it's not. So this is pin sharp over here in the middle, but it's actually quite a bit more out of, this side's more alright, maybe falling off at the side just there, but this side is definitely a bit more in the way of soft. It looks like it's up to about here, which isn't too bad. So I'm probably going to be cropping this into the middle. I might keep the original. I like this particular one, and I did take many because it has this sort of, it has the vertical lines coming down and it almost looks like barbed wire. And I'll crop it basically to the middle to try and get rid of the out of focus bits from the deflection of the glass or perspex. And it seems to me that I've managed to get quite a decent, that's just a bit soft over there. See what I mean? Because the top is getting soft because of the bulge, whereas the bottom bit here is in focus, whereas that's not in focus, but the top of it is over here. So it's almost impossible to do it, and I didn't bother with a focus stack because it was just going to be too much of a, there's not enough reference points if you're dealing with a translucent material that you're actually doing. It's like, where do you start from and where do you end? And it probably would have been a lot more hassle than I was willing to make in the very cold night. But anyway, let's go with the vivid. So it goes a bit more dark in the background, although we can try the landscape. No, it's definitely better with the vivid. So we could try with the monochrome, and that's what we get. And then this is, I think I prefer the colour version because you get the bluey sort of hues from it. And we will put this, I think it's going to actually not be too far from where it was shot. Yeah, even think I'll leave it on a shot actually for the white balance, and let's go with the exposure. I think I can bring it up a little bit. Just do it, move it up until it starts clipping, which is right about here, and then we go to the highlights, which I'm guessing because we've moved up the exposure. I think where this is gonna come alive is in the curves part, because that's usually where you get the more subtle changes in the exposure rather than the overall the global sliders. And we'll just see what the shadows do to the background. I think I'm going to have to zoom in again. I think I will reduce it a small bit. I'll do the blacks while I'm here, and then add a bit more where we get in the clipping. Can't actually see where it is. I think it's just a couple of dots, but I will put that, keep that on to make sure I don't go too over the top. And as before, I will put a bit, oh there it is, it starts to creep in. It's a lot of little. It's actually quite a big difference. I might actually do it this way and try and make the detail stand out with it being a bit darker using the sliders. I think a couple of tiny spots are gonna be alright, but yeah, well, then I think this will be needing a little bit of clarity. And then this is what I was looking at, is the tone curve. This is where it's probably going to make it quite literally shine, because this is where you get the little movements in where, like each part, like here, that's starting to change. If you watch that, and it's these little movements that will I think that's getting close to where it is. The thing is, because it's being backlit through the glass by a white light, it's very easy to blow out these highlights in the top edges, and I might just have to just live with it, because it's just a matter of fact, isn't it? Because I'm not stopping any detail really in most of it. That's just, well, it's just a very contrasty bright highlight naturally really, so it's hard to keep it completely, it's almost impossible. Like, I'm putting that, the white's almost all the way down, and it doesn't bring any new colours into the ice, it just turns it greyer. So I don't think having a little bit of blowing out of the highlights is actually being a problem. And I think we're getting close to it. And yeah, I will do 50 yet again, and the detail's definitely going up with this one because it's a lot of fine detail in it. So we will make put a very high mask on it, about 85, and yeah, it looks like it's alright in terms of noise from the sharpening, and I think the vignette on here is going to be a better job, seeing as it's probably going to be a bit more subtle than a mask, and it's quite a simple image really. I only need a very, very light one, maybe -2, just to bring the eye more to the centre, and I think that's about it. And here is the full screen. And here we have the last one. This was taken at a vintage trials rally taken last year in late January, when it's always held. It's called Talmag, if you want to look it up. And it's a pre-1965 trials bike through what I believe was MOD land near Aldershot, as I said, and it's a fun day out. But you always have these characterful bikes, and you also sometimes have the characterful riders too. With this, I am going to crop out some of the spectators, like this bloke. He's actually not a spectator. He's a what's it called? Not an umpire. I don't know. I know that, and I think I will get rid of this guy's bag, but these people will stay in the background. And I might crop out these people watching up here, so we just have some people on this side. So let's do that and get that tree cropped out, and I think that's about there for the crop. And I will do, I don't know whether to go vivid or portrait. I'll go portrait, vivid I mean, gives a bit more punch to it. And yeah, then we're gonna up the exposure a little bit. I think the white balance is just about right. I might add a tiny amount of because he's got the low winter sun. I'll add a bit more yellow to it, but only just slightly, and we will go for, I don't think there's many highlights. I think I need to actually bring down the whites and the highlights a bit globally to actually bring the sky back a little bit. But I'm going to add a vignette as well, so that should do a bit of a job. But it brings down these trees as well, these pines, and we'll then bring up the shadows a little bit, and I think I'll take down the blacks a little bit, and I'll add the usual low amount of clarity and texture, a bit of movement there. This is actually quite a wide shot, more than it looks. It is 31mm, but it is, it's like quite close to me, so even at 1/640th there's still a bit of movement, but I think it actually helps slightly to give a bit of, to show that he is actually moving and not just balancing there. So yeah, onto this, and I will add a bit more. I think that's about right. And no, don't want to go too far with that. And then bring down his, I'm being careful with the highlights on his jacket, and I think that's about right for the curves. Well, we got, yeah, and again same sharpening more or less, although there's a bit more. I think the ISO is a bit higher, but because it's got a decent exposure to it, it's actually not too bad. But I won't go as high this time. I'll go to about 60, and then we will mask this to about 75. I think will be right. And I think because he's off center, we're going to have to use a mask for the vignette, and put the radial, and I think we'll actually give a bit of sort of punch by using the radial filter compared to the other shots, because I can be more aggressive with it, because he's the subject very obviously. So I think I can do this, not as far as that, but I can do that and I can bring it down quite far, and it will still look decent. But this isn't going to be the final shot with it this low. I've just exaggerated it to show where it is more easily, and we will then widen this out a little bit. But yeah, and then we'll dial it back a little bit, and I think that's all right for the a bit more actually copy the radial and then we will invert it what am I doing? This is when it gets confusing. Okay, we'll just start a new one. That's what I was aiming for, just a bit more brightness on him to bring the eye up to him just as he catches the weak sun. And then I think that's about it. So let's have a look at before and after. And here's the final image. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with some before and afters of the finished images. Catch you next time.